Welcome to Pass the Mic, Let's Talk, an initiative of the African Center for Ideas program through Jade Communications. This edition is part of a series of conversations on Kenya's general election, August 2022. Our focus will be on women as leaders and voters. I'm John Sibi Okumu, and my guest is Anna Nyokabi Gatesha, a former women's representative for Kiambu County in Kenya, who is now an advisor at the Oceans and Blue Economy Office. Welcome, Anna, if I may.
Thank you, John.
I'm interested in the Oceans and Blue Economy Office, not knowing what it is. What is it?
The Oceans and Blue Economy Office was created a few years ago with the sole intention of ensuring that Kenya's marine resources are utilized to the maximum capacity. We take care of the coastal communities and ensure that all policy is aligned to ensure that the coastal communities are able to sustain an equitable lifestyle, and that the country can earn the billions of resources that are currently undiscovered within the ocean.
Well, a conversation for another day.
Absolutely.
Today, our rubric is women. Mm-hmm. I described you as a former women's rep. Former means in times gone by. So you must have won an election. I do believe that was in 2013, and you must have lost an election, the next one in 2017. Would you like to describe what happened to you as a human being in terms of seeking to be a leader in those two elections?
Absolutely. In 2013, it was the first time that we were having the positions of women representatives. First time for a lot of women to be elected within the country, which was a great moment. And I think one of the fantastic things about the current constitution is allowing a larger part of the population to be at the table where decisions are made. So leading up to that, it was euphoric. My background has mainly been administrative, corporate banking, university administration. So the leap into politics was refreshing. It was quite a change. And, you know, going down to Wanjiko, having that discussion with her, then going into politics, going into the room where you now start legislating, ensuring that the agenda that one had set up based on the conversations that they had was established. And being a new office for the women's rep in the National Assembly, wow, what a ride.
Well, if it's not, if you'll forgive me for using this verb, why did you lose the next time round? Because if the people loved you and you were giving the people what they wanted, you should have been women's rep in perpetuity.
Absolutely. The second part of the election, or going out into our mandate in terms of why did I lose? A whole bunch of situations. I mean, we've been watching the political situation and seeing the acrimony of, somebody sat at Jubilee House and X'd anybody who would not be supportive of the agenda for election in 2022. But I'd like to think that maybe I may not have been as responsive to the electoral needs, and winds had changed. There was a different expectation in terms of the leaders. Are we able to connect or to lead with our own people? But I think our 2022 situation was a combination. where there was
Your 2017 situation.
sorry.
Your 2017.
2017 situation.
Sorry, yes, yeah.
2017 situation was a bit different because the expectations, you find that most of the people thought that I would sit at the county where they'd have more access and be able to come in and have their issues sorted out, that, this was not a seat that you legislate at the National Assembly. So that constant touch that people want to have with you, that you've moved to the National Assembly where they feel that you would have better served them at the county, was part of the feedback that I got. You do an analysis afterwards to figure out what did we do wrong and what could have been done better.
Right. I'm going to take you, Anna, as a case study, because if we're discussing women,
yes,
then you are one.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
I'm still going to go back to what happened to you, and I'll just ask the coffee table question: where did you get the money from to run? Because apparently it costs millions of shillings to even contemplate running for political office. So if you represent Wanjiko, is Wanjiko, I'm not personalizing this,
right,
I'm nationalizing this. Is every woman who aspires to political leadership capable of so doing in terms of purely monetary terms?
You want me to tell you the truth?
I would, surely.
I didn't have money to run. But there was a wave that was going on at that time that you could ride on. The people that were running in office had a lot of money. So I would make sure that I was there when they were speaking and addressing the public.
Right, so you took the same platform.
Yes.
And benefited from
I benefited
their largesse.
from their largesse.
Agreed.
Yes.
Now, I've also heard that, I've read a book, in fact I've not heard, where a woman candidate, I think it was in Meru, describes the terrible experience of being a woman candidate. Tales of abuse, tales of viciousness, tales of just nasty. Now, are the people of Kiambu so sophisticated that they treated you with kid gloves, or were you also a recipient of this nastiness across the block?
Now, you need to remember, I was not running against any male candidate. Right. I was running for a women's seat. Right. So
so in other words, you were running against other
women.
Right.
Yes. And therefore, in terms of the violence, that I did not experience until 2017. But the initial 2013, no, there wasn't that. I know that one of the women candidates who was running for a single constituency seat did face that in Thika. And, you'd see that the massive security that was around, simply because she's contesting for a seat that most men tend to think belongs to them. So you'd hear, we nenda kiti ya mama, mumepewa viti zenu, run for your own seat. This is our domain, this is a male seat, women's seats have been created. So there's a lot of that propaganda. And from part of our women colleagues who are running, you'd find that their ballots would be stuffed with condoms, intimidating activities that would take place because of that. My strategy, I wouldn't say strategy, but it was just fortunate for me at that time, is that the candidate who was running for governor, remember, as when you're running for the seat of women rep, senator, and governor, you're doing the whole county. So when you go on to do your elections, if you choose to team up, you are also leveraging on the person's security, you're leveraging on their motorcade or their establishment. So essentially what you need to do is just show up and have your own basic, your driver and whoever else that, so that you're able to get into those particular areas. It's not an easy, politics I think within the African context is not as easy as and a walk in the park as we would like to think, because there's a lot of factors. Remember, when women are out there, you go for meetings, and how many women talk, have that big voice to attend even the men's meeting and be told, okay, you have the forum. I think maybe in Central we may be a bit more liberal, but I do have friends who've told me that, well, within our communities in Western, women are considered, they're not supposed to talk in front of men. They're not allowed within the same space and forum where men are.
Right. Well, you're raising an important issue here. Several questions being begged from what you've said so far, Anna. One of them is, again, the sort of chauvinist idea that women are their own worst enemies, because if you look at it numerically, they have the numbers to actually define the results in elections everywhere in this country, at least. But women hate each other. Wow. Was there a kind of sisterhood that was going on? Or do you think that's a sort of stereotype that you would like to dismiss? Or would you unpack it slightly more elaborately?
I wouldn't say that women are their worst enemies. I mean, that is something that women have been sold so that, that we continue that male hegemony of divide and conquer. But we are actually our best friends. And case study is that at least during the 2013, all women across parties, political parties, whenever an issue for women came into parliament, it did not matter what political organization you belong to. We came together as the tribe of women. Not that it was really encouraged by the men. They would not be happy. They'd go around saying, how are mama anafanya nini? Why are the women meeting in parliament today? What is it that they're discussing, They want to know because, you see, as long as women are kept divided, then there's no bridge and goal that we would achieve for the unity. And you know that if you empower a woman, you actually empower a whole society, because it's if you educate a woman, it's continuous learning for life. It's not just about her, it becomes about her children, her family, and her community.
Anna, that is exactly why you've been given this great honorific title, where the greatest achievement is to be Mama Kinyanjui, Mama Tom, Mama Jackie. In other words, the biological function of being the mother of the nation should suffice. Once you've done mum, there's nothing else for you to do.
Really?
Now, so respond to that. Why not just keep on nurturing us and nurturing your sons and daughters and telling them how to be good citizens? Done. Job description fulfilled.
Absolutely. You can say that, but we also need to say it and continue nurturing them at every single level, whether it's elective, whether it's corporate.
Why the will to power? Why the will to be the leader? You could well be at home looking after Jimmy and Kariuki and...
What happens when they're grown up?
Okay. So you're saying that in terms of the wider issue, when does it serve for women in particular to be in leadership positions? Why should we think in a society where women can think for themselves and are voters that we need the nomenclature of women's rep? Like set themselves a little corner so that they can have a rep. Isn't that demeaning of its own?
It would have been if we had a history of electing women, right? But that wasn't the case. If you looked at the history of this country, you could count the number of women who had been elected, right? Previously. I don't know if they'd even meet 8 or out of 10 of a parliament of 200 and something. So there is a need, and the constitution that we currently have talks about inclusivity. You can't have an inclusive society if it's only men at the table. You need the voice of every single person, youth, women, persons living with disability, to be at the table so that they can articulate their issues. You can't speak for a woman. As a male, yes, we do have gender-friendly men, but who can articulate issues conclusively of water, of agriculture? These are roles that women are traditionally in. And being a woman at the table, we're able to articulate these issues more clearly and better because we know what we go through and what things are not being said at the table. And, you know, one of the things that Charity Ngilu, who
ran for president historically.
Absolutely.
Right.
But when she was minister, she once told us as women parliamentarians, you know, when you come to my office, you come here with the troubles of your community. When men come to my office, they come to discuss deals and business. And that's an area that she would like women to change, because without the economic empowerment and without money in your pocket, it becomes very difficult to be able to run again. It becomes difficult to, that if you don't have money, then that means you have to go to somebody for a handout to give you money. Which,
I understand, because
yes.
I'm following you closely. Now you brought up the F word, funding.
Yes.
Funding. You're the case study. I've understood that you just sort of, you know, tagged along to the big meetings and had your word.
Right.
Where did you get your funding from? And where are women everywhere to derive their funding? It seems to me that they should be deriving their funding from fellow women. That there should be a chama where say, right, Anna, it's your turn to have our voice. Here's Mamili Nenda.
I love that idea.
But you're
Because
trying to suggest
the
that it
time...
won't work.
No, absolutely not. It just means that we probably need to do that because we don't have a fund for where we can put a kitty together and say, okay, this woman represents the best of our qualities. Let's have a woman candidate for president, and we'll fund her.
I'd ask you, Anna, if I dare say from your name, this sort of like social profiling, I dare say that you are a Mugikuyu woman.
From Kiambu. Essential, yes.
From Kiambu. Does that suggest an essential solidarity with a woman from Budalangi South, where I come from?
Absolutely. You know,
I don't think so.
Women issues are the same. So. You know, women issues are the same.
Right.
You know, we hear all of these jokes that,
there's no such thing.
Wacha wanawake wa Kiambu, if you joke with them, septic tanks, you do mambo ingine hapo.
Exactly.
No?
Meru women are very nasty. And I happen to be married to one. Yeah.
I hope you have a home to go to. Yes. Women in Central, let's say they're more empowered or have been closer to the city, have been more exposed to business, trading. If you take a look at the number, the population as well, there'll be more single-headed women households. So you're forced to step up and, you know, take care of your family, provide for them. Maybe the husbands are not around, so it means that you need to be strong as a woman. And being closer to the city and probably having more educational institutions around us, you find that we're not willing to have our rights stepped on, you know? That's why, look, we had Martha Karua, presidential candidate. We all know how strong a woman she is and how she won't back down from ensuring that your rights are placed out there. So
what is exercising my mind is that at some point in my education, we were given a whole sort of socialist ideology about the class system, the control of the means of production, the aristocratic society that led to the feudal society that led to the industrial whatever. But there is a class system. So you're trying to say that Martha Karua, judge of the High Court of Kenya, that's the only kind of woman who is fit to lead with PhDs and degrees. And because we're always choraring, you know, Wanjiko in our cartoons. She's a great figure. She's very appealing, Wanjiko.
Yes.
But Wanjiko on a clear day has no access to this power of which you speak. Let's be honest about that, Anna, for 1 minute. You've got to be rich.
You've got to be rich to do what? To run?
Yes. In order to even contemplate running. Or you would say, no, you've got to talk nicely to the people and make the right alliances.
Let me tell you something. If you take a look at, I'm not sure about the rest of the country, but if you take a look at the voting patterns, especially within Central, and I'll take a look at who we were voting as our MCAs, it's not about money may have a big factor in the 2020 elections. But my experience has been, are you relatable? Are you approachable? Are you resonating with the people and the issues that they're going through? Are you, you've got to be bold. You've got to be able to approach people to be able to say, okay, I want to run for this particular seat. You've got to go for it. You can't sit and say, I'm waiting for it to come to me. That won't happen. You need to be able to be bold. You need to sell your idea to people who believe in you so that they'll be able to now talk about Wanjiko, Nyokabi, Atieno, right? Somebody that they can believe will propagate their agenda or their idea, and they have to have a person that they believe in. Money, yes, is a factor, but, I'm one of those people who believe that what is destined for you can never be taken away from you. You could gang up and say, let's kick Nyokabi out. We don't want her to be elected. She's too strong-headed. She has too much of a mind of her own and will not be controlled. We can't get her to do what she needs to do, what we want her to do, because she's busy thinking always of maybe how to improve society, how to get things done more efficiently. So let's get her out. But eventually, what my destiny and my purpose is will come to pass. And as long as I don't give up, I know I'll get there.
I'd like us to switch tags. I've heard the sermon. I've been to the mountaintop. I've seen the other side.
Hallelujah.
Thank you. I want us to switch tags. We've talked about leaders.
Right.
I'd like us to think about the voter and this idea of exercising one's democratic right to vote as a woman. May I suggest to you maybe that if we all listen to our mothers and what our mothers have to say, that maybe it is women who are responsible for ethnic divisions and tribalism. You are the one who's going to tell your son or brother not to marry that horrible Jalua woman. Is it women who do that?
Really, John?
It's a question I'd like to ask.
I think you're absolutely off.
Right. Well, do respond.
The reason being, women are the ones who hold the family unit together, correct?
Yes. But
when I want to run, I must go to a male council of elders, to be background checked, to find out if I am followed every single comma, dot, T, a tradition, who are you married to, not among other women, but you need to go and present that to men. So who here is the cause of the division?
I was saying that instilling ideas in people's minds, because we say that okay, let me put my question another way. What role do women have to play in dissipating this well-known ethnic divide? We're always talking about political divides, ethnic divides, and we want things to improve because we're going to come to the general elections August 2022. That is our topic, because we're going to tie these things up together, I would wish, and say what might happen in 10 months' time that we might expect of women. So in terms of ethnicity, what role might women play? Women,
if you want peace in this country, you get it through the woman. If you want unity or a problem solved, talk to women, not men. Women, as far as social issues. You take a look at every single household within Nairobi or metropolitan area. You won't. Who am I working with? It's not a Kikuyu only. No, I think if anything, women are the most democratic persons within a household or within an area than any other, because one, we must submit to the authority of the father or the husband. You're always second place to your brothers, right? So in terms of acceptability and issues in terms of equality, inclusivity, who does that in the home? Every single activity that you do is about that, because you're the one who has to bring the whole home together.
The great unifier.
The great unifier. And I'm thinking that at some point, we may need, 60 years, we've been ruled by men in every front. We have had cases of election violence. We have violence around, and who suffers the brutality of that violence is women. So maybe we need to have a paradigm shift and take a look at, what if we bring more women on the table? What if we elect more women? What if we have more women in those leadership positions?
Right. I'm going to
or
ask
even
you,
at the top.
we won't have enough time, and now we're just getting warmed up, because here's 2022. We've got all these political alliances, and we're on this elevated plane where we're not naming names and shaming. We're just thinking, what do we see around us? We find people zooming around the country, dancing to sort of reggae beats and whatever on our TVs and coalitions. Do the women in those groupings also feel it's time for one love, and those other people across the block are horrid people? What will women's role be as a leveler in the next 10 months? Because it seems to me that people are being coalesced along, rah, 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 it's team A versus team B, and I'm going to knock you out.
It's not the women fighting, right?
Exactly. So I'm asking, because if women, sorry, I'm not talking down to you. If women have this great power, how are they to exercise it in the next 10 months?
The conversations should probably change. And if you ask me, women around the table or sitting down at the town hall meetings, or if we even implement the Constitution as is, that rah-rah and all of that is just hubris, and it's good, because that's probably what you need, is that momentum. It creates that discussion. But I don't think it actually addresses the fundamental issues that are ailing the country. I don't believe that the rallies themselves address the issues of my inability to have water within my area.
I agree with you.
And the question now becomes, as a woman, if we see you doing that kind of thing, we'll start calling you, in Kikuyu, call them wanjakihe, these kiboys.
That sounds a bit rude.
Yes.
The little Kikuyu, we better not translate that. Okay.
Somebody who, for that, what I believe will make the game changer, what the difference will be, is in terms of the candidates that have presented themselves will believe in their ability to take the country forward and to address these issues, depending on how many women they have around them advising them. How many women are they giving responsibilities for policy creation and around them?
Anna, when we look at women, the women that we have in power, they too, and this is a question that's going to come up when we address youth. We've left you out of the youth. Somebody else is going to do that. But the idea of women aligning themselves to these divides and these polarities, aren't they thinking wider than that? Surely there are those who currently like the Prime Minister Raila Odinga. There are those who like the Deputy President William Ruto, and women are coming up saying, you were this to me and we're in the same party. In other words, there is no ideological standpoint to women's issues. They're not thinking ideology. They're not thinking long-term policy. They're talking allegiances and alliances and what benefit is to be derived if I, your man, wins. Is that...
In terms of ideological, even the politics itself, there's no ideology, right? What do you believe in? Bigger government, less government? Those are not the issues that are being discussed. And the truth is, people want to get to power, correct?
Bottom up is an ideology. Hustler is an ideology. These are all ideologies. We've all had big families ruling this joint for the last 50 years. It's got to change. That could be construed as an ideological standpoint. And I'm asking...
It could be.
We're still going back. Where should women be? Because we're sort of saying... We spent the first half of our conversation saying this is an enlightened segment of the community, a diplomatic segment of the community, a nurturing segment of the community. What is this segment going to do to have us have peaceful, non-violent elections in August 2022? Because we dread a return to 2007, or at least I dread. Maybe you don't.
No, our safety, our security as women is critical and it's key.
Men and women.
True, but as citizens, yes. But as victims who bear the greatest burden, I do believe that's why I say that women do. In terms of what that, I know where you're trying to get with this. However, the question...
Where I'm trying to get at in the terms of our conversation is that if we're going to discuss, because now I could accuse you up until now of just being politico speak, being correct, saying the right things, and that will be a little soundbite. I want us to go, because I want us to go beyond the soundbite and have a rallying call for women. This, my sisters, this, my mothers, this, my aunties, is what we ought to be doing to make our country better. Have you thought about that as a women's politician?
I have. Are you asking me to make that rallying call?
Yes, do. How would you phrase it? Because you said you're united in terms of ambition, you're united whatever, and I'm just saying elections are coming up soon, so that's our topic. We stated it clearly at the beginning. Throw women into elections August 2022 in the minutes that remain to us, in that specific mold.
I believe that in order for us to see the change, the country that we can believe in, to have the policy and the reforms that are needed, we need more women at the table. And not just any kind of woman, the kind of woman who cares about her children, who cares about where this country will be, who cares about whether we'll have safety and security. Let's discuss real issues. If I had my own political party, then maybe I'd say that, come on and join us. And if I was running for, a position that required that rallying, then I would say that vote for me. But
so you're passing the buck.
Am I passing the buck?
Yeah, you're saying because
I'm passing the mic.
Yeah. We'll all get sacked if we start playing on words. Let's tell all women everywhere, because one of my last notes, we've had a handshake on one. Do citizens have a role in shaping the conversations? Do women as citizens? And how do we clean up our politics here in Kenya? There's me reading from my notes. What is your response to those notes? Women as citizens, the clean-up status.
The clean-up status. We have a role, and we are empowered to make those choices at the ballot with what we are casting. The question now is, let us ask better questions of our representatives. And maybe we need to stop the mass rallying.
Right.
So that we can be able to have those types of conversations, so that we can pin down our candidates with those particular questions of inclusivity. What kinds of policies, what role do they see women in their governments? And not lip speak, because unfortunately this particular time in politics is like, you heard the story of the man who died, went to hell, and there was a disco and everything getting on and going on, and they went up to heaven and everything was quiet, everybody was singing their hallelujah, and he was told, okay, where do you want to go? He said, I think I'll go to hell. So when he went down to hell, they found that the devil had horns, the place was hot, and the fire and everything, and he was like, what the hell happened to that? I came back the other day and everything was so cool and funky. And the guys, Satan goes, well, we were campaigning at that time.
I hear you. So when we're in electioneering mode, we lie to the people. Mm-hmm. So I would ask you again, this is our own little pond, and the media. I mean, we hear your voice. Uh-huh. We've invited you here to hear your voice. Do you think that the media is giving women platforms across all divides to be spokesmen, adequate coverage? Because you're talking to me and will probably be seen by 500 people. Now that 500 out of 47 million or 50 million or 60 million is not a good number. So I'm asking in a roundabout sort of way, what platforms might be created for women to have a voice so that others can hear what you're saying, apart from the 500 who are going to switch on Facebook?
Media across the country has a responsibility to ensure that they change the conversation, they mold or direct the conversation in terms of where do we want. They have a responsibility to a better Kenya by ensuring that voices are heard of women, of youth, of persons with disability.
But you personally, have you tried to be on the 9 o'clock news every single day?
No, currently I'm not. I am in office as a public servant. So unless I'm selling government agenda and what we're doing right now with the Oceans and Blue Economy, I'm not on the media. So I have not been at the forefront of engaging. When I was in politics, yes, I was. I was constantly in front of cameras, maybe 3 or 4 times a week.
Right.
Which is an important part. As I mentioned earlier, in order for women to be heard, they must step out. What media has a responsibility to do is not carry out brown envelope journalism, where you're going to require women to have to pay because their base that they're coming from is maybe different. Not all women, because I think come 2022 elections, we're going to see an interesting shift in terms of not the regular Wanjiko running for office, but we will see more of the wealthier, heavy-weighted, empowered pockets running for political office. And the question becomes, will that be a reflection of what Wanjiko would want? But the way the Constitution has worked out, politics has become a very expensive affair. If you have to go through the whole processes in terms of you need, as an MP, 1,000 signatures to be able to register your candidacy. In order for you to be heard, you need to be able to be in front of the radios and the cameras and the TV. And as they keep saying, Nimusoto. So, Nimusoto. So you will need to be able to dish out so that you can be placed in front of cameras. But maybe that needs to shift, and organizations that are supporting transparency, accountable leadership, which is what this country needs.
Right.
If we take a look at what kind of policies and what ails this country and how do we correct that, is Chapter 6, will it be thrown out? IBC has told us that if you've been if you're charged with corruption, you can still run. They don't have a
problem with that.
A problem with that.
I'd like you, our time is not on our side, I'd like you to have a soundbite, if you may, on this whole idea of the 2/3 majority. Why is it taking it so long when the Constitution is saying get some women in there? Our conversation would have been declared null and void if they just followed the Constitution since 2010.
Political will.
So, okay.
Political will and willingness.
Absence of. To follow the Constitution.
Correct.
As is.
As is.
Or should we change it every day for the next 10 years?
No.
As is.
If we were to say that, the 2/3, it's already there. So political parties, that's one way they can go about it, is ensure that 2/3 of their candidates are women.
Right.
If you take that conversation to the men, and I remember when we were trying to pass, to get that discussion in Parliament on 2/3, that's why they kept asking, what are these women meeting about all the time? We don't want them meeting. In case they start bringing those agendas zao za 2/3 na mambo kama hiyo. Are we ready as a country for that 2/3? And the only way that we can have these kind of discussions and to have that 2/3, we need to expand this economy so that politics is not the end all and be all for everybody. It looks like if you don't get into government, you can't make money. No, we need an economy that's robust so that it doesn't matter where I am. I know that I can be able to conduct my business. I can be able to get equity wherever it is that I am without having to jump into the political fray, so that we can be able to make policies that actually benefit the nation. So that politics is not such
a big deal.
Yes.
Right. The last two questions, because the last two shorty ones, I'd like to, what could have been the question to begin in all these conversations, is that you, as a seer, are women ready for the elections August 2022? Are they prepared now, adequately educated for this big moment? And a prong to that is, if there are viewers who are continental viewers in other African countries, what do you think that Kenyan women could deliver as a lesson to be learned of the power of the vote throughout the continent? So readiness in Kenya, message to the continent.
Are women ready for 2022 elections in Kenya? Yes, they are. And the beauty about the last 10 years with the new constitution is you go to the marketplaces and you hear the paradigm shift has already started happening. Men are starting to say, we've had 10 years of male governors. We have seen what has happened within the counties. Let's see if we elect women, if there'll be a difference. And track records in terms of what women have been doing. And I believe that the change has happened and the paradigm shift is there. We will see more women elected to parliament this 2022 in all cadres, whether it's at the MCA level, Senate. You see most people are demanding that if you're a governor who is a male, the woman should be the deputy governor. Or if we have a male governor, a female senator. You're hearing those discussions more and more. So the floor is open to have more women candidates and for a demonstration of women's leadership, because they're perceived to be more caring, accountable. They will come in and put transparent policies that we'll be able to see, which is what the country needs to move on.
And is that what the continent needs to see?
I do believe so. If you take a look at the strides that have been made in countries that have women leadership, we take Rwanda as a shining example within the country. 60% are women. And look at the strides, look at the changes that we're seeing. I do believe that for a better continent, for a better Africa, and in terms of the accountability, for Africa to be the leader that she's supposed to be, women must be at the center of leadership.
A good point to stop, and we have to stop there. Thank you, Anna Nyokabi Gathesha, for your challenging, informative, and dare I say, humorous replies. And thank you for watching or listening to this conversation on Pass the Mic, an initiative of the African Center for Ideas program through Jade Communications. Till next time.